dat to you, boys and girls. Thursday as we prep for the NFL draft. It's coming up. I don't know if y'all knew. Are y'all aware the NFL draft is like a week away from tonight, to be specific? We'll have the NFL draft starting out. So the time is upon us. Wow. Time flies, man. So tonight we're actually going to talk about who your draft crush is. So you're going to have the opportunity to call into the show, say who you think the New Orleans Saints should draft, who your favorite is, and I'm not even going to disagree with you. Like, I'm not going to open and be like, ha, you're stupid. What I'll just say is whether I think he fits or not, and we'll go from there. Bring whoever it is, obscure, obvious, I don't care. If you are Nolan Smith fan, talking to you, Kel, if you are a big fan of Mozzie, which, okay, but your name's probably John Sigler. I don't get why anybody would draft a one tech in the first round, but it can happen. We're going to talk about all that. And then, of course, we do have to do our normal, which has become a normal. We got to be a little bit, I don't want to use the word dramatic because I don't want y'all to get all in your feels about the show that you're watching, but when are we going to stop pretending that these random drug tests are indeed random? When are we going to stop telling that lie? Does anybody want to talk about that for a second, or are we going to keep just pretending that that is oh yeah, we trust them. We trust them. And the latest example of this, you might not have heard it, but Michael Thomas, well, he re-signed with the team. He's got a 1-year deal. Up to $15 million, going to probably make about $10 million. There's a lot of people here in the chat who don't even believe he's going to play more than, a handful of games. TJ, you're a bad person. So when we hear that, we want him to succeed. Hopefully most of us want him to succeed. The feds did a sweep. We're going to talk about that. Let me get some shouts to those who are in the chat. First of all, TJ, Didi Brown, Jay Ortiz, Bill Tadoc, Crawl, Gators Goodies. Very curious what that means. Is that a shop? Is that a reference to something? I want to know. Rainy, top of the boot, Jerry G, Lester, funny guy Ben. Good to see you. Jimbo, Saints Garcia, Ghosted. Oh, wow, Ghosted. I haven't seen you in a minute. Good to see draft coming around. You're like, all right, I'll listen to football for a second. But if there's any of that foolishness, nah, we're not here for it. But welcome in Who Dat to all of Who Dat Nation. Hope y'all are having an amazing Thursday evening. So what I want to start with before we get into who y'all's draft crushes are, and any of our moderators, please have the Discord link handy. If you do want to give your opinion on who is your draft crush and why, we have the Discord open. There is a channel open right now where you can request to speak. I will let y'all know when we start opening up the stage, but we're going to get through our news first. But yeah, we're going to hit that real quick. And the first thing I want to talk about is, those who've been following Michael Thomas, you know that he has been working out, trying to show that he's ready, trying to get back into shape. Not that he wasn't in shape, but he's just trying to get to where he can play 17 games in the current NFL regular season, right? So he posted a video, as everybody does, of him working out. This particular video, actually, though, was him deadlifting 530 pounds. That's like if you took Rev Deuce and then added me to Andres Pete. That's basically, well, probably not Andres Pete's a little bit bigger. Cesar Ruiz, if you added me to Cesar Ruiz, or, add me to Cameron Jordan. Either way, you got two big-ass people that he's deadlifting. It's a lot of weight. It's not world record or anything. Shout out to Eddie Hall, who hit the 500 kilograms. But still, it's a lot of damn weight. Literally, in 2 days, the man gets a text message from the whitest name I've ever known. Well, not the whitest, but it's a pretty damn white name. Gary. Gary texted Michael, and he didn't say, hey, MT, hey, Thomas, whatever. He said, Michael, comma, this is Gary on behalf of the NFL. You have been selected for an off-season PES, and then in parentheses, performance-enhancing substance. Like, Mike don't even know what the hell is going on, as if Mike is ignorant to what's happening right now. Urine test tomorrow morning. Please contact me ASAP to set up a meeting. My number is, which this is the dumbest thing I've ever seen. Why are you going to text a man and then say, call me at this number? You're texting him. Can he not call you on the number he's texting? Anyway, random, quote unquote, random drug test selected for Michael Thomas. At some point, we need to drop the charade that these are random drug tests. It is quite clear these are targeted, which is whatever, I guess. I'm not going to get too like pissy about it, but say what it is. Say what it is. I don't understand why the NFL wants to put on this big, song and dance and pony show and all this player safety bullcrap. You don't care about any of that. Just say what it is. You're going to test anybody at will and stop sugarcoating it. Whatever. Guys are going to get tested. Here's what it is. It's just the way that they kind of put themselves out there. And it really bugs me personally. It annoys me. I'll be honest. If you can't tell by some of my voice, it annoys me a bit. I'm glad that MT's in the gym. And I hope that he's not, juicing or anything crazy that, could not only affect his season, but even affect his life. And I do believe that there is a stigma around steroids that doesn't necessarily need to be around there, that we've been taught that steroids are like this instant evil, yet anytime you get sick, you get pumped with a steroid. And no, I'm not a medical doctor. Those are two completely different things, but I did put them side by side in the same damn sentence, and I can do it because it's my podcast. I do whatever the hell I want. So seriously though, you get to a point where we need to just drop the ridiculousness. Michael Thomas deadlifting 530 as a 215-pound wide receiver freaks you out. Fine, drug test him. But stop pretending like it's random. Stop lying to the fans and the players and having them believe a certain thing. Just be open and honest. We're going to drug test you at will, and we'll let you know if we think that you need to be tested. Now, oddly enough, I don't believe Alvin Kamara got tested when he was literally carrying a squat rack and pulling a Jeep. But apparently, Michael Thomas deadlifting a legit amount of weight is worth, releasing the feds on. But it is what it is, man. Curtis, good to see you. Bam says Skip Bayless is the whitest name in sport. I don't know, man. Like, is Skip really a... Let's be real. Because when we talk white, we're talking about the culture of being Caucasian. Is Skip really a white name? I don't really know if it is. So, I don't really know if it is. But beyond Michael Thomas, and we can open up the floor to get y'all's thoughts, what I did want to spend the majority of today's episode on, besides griping at the NFL, is getting who your draft crush is. And y'all can give me a 7th round player. You can give me a 1st round player. I don't care. It could be a big name. It could be a no name. Whoever you just absolutely are in love with. And if I happen to know who they are, then I'll comment. If I don't know who they are, well, then we'll talk about it a little bit, and I'll probably pull up maybe like Lance Zierlein scouting report, or maybe go to PFF or Draft Network. We'll find a place. We'll pull up a resource, and we'll pull up his relative athletic score. We'll talk about that. So we can pull up any draft crush you want. And how we're going to do it is the phone lines are open. Now, I see TJ's in the chat. TJ, I don't know if you want to come in and then also provide your thoughts, but then also kind of do like a little mic test with us, however you want to kind of do it. But if y'all haven't, join the Discord, jump in here. Let's talk about draft crushes, and we will, if we can, pull some from the chat. Now, if there aren't enough people talking, we'll pull some from the chat. And TJ, inviting you to the stage to speak. We'll do a quick mic check. And if you've got a crush, tell me who it is. How you doing, TJ? You got to unmute yourself, boss. Same thing as last time. Unmute yourself. Damn. Every week.
But I won't beat that into the ground. As of recently, though, I think someone that I wouldn't mind them taking, and honestly, I could see them taking if the chips fell a certain way, but would be Brian Branch from Alabama.
Okay.
DA loves versatile defensive backs. He plays on the slot. He honestly kind of reminded me of a better version of Chauncey Gardner-Johnson at Florida.
Shade thrown. Love it.
Love it. Yeah, so I could see that. I could see, like, if the defensive end that they might be targeting is gone, they probably are trying to work the phones to trade up for someone like the DN from Clemson, and he's not there. Maybe Kancey doesn't fit the size profile that they like, since they saw Sheldon Rankins fall apart.
Bro, I don't think he fits the size profile that anybody likes. For those that missed it, Kancey did not receive a single invitation for a private visit.
Yeah, I was pretty shocked about that.
I'm not shocked at all.
So like, I knew he was undersized, like everybody else knows that. But when you said on Tuesday that he played at 270, I was like, well, damn, he's not even I mean, that's almost undraftable. Like he's got freakish abilities, but that's just too small.
Well,
And then
we know that
if he
guys
bulks up,
will like bulk up, and he came into the combine and even bulked up at the combine was 281.
right? But that's to prep for the combine. I mean, if
Yeah,
you're
but
in
that's
the midst of
bulked
the
up.
season,
Like that's bigger than you
well, yeah,
typically
yeah,
play.
right.
So
And it's not like you bulked up to 300 pounds. It was still, I mean, the bulk weight was still light. So yeah, I don't even know. I don't know how that works, especially not in the first round. But as far as what I can see them doing, and I wouldn't hate it, is if they took Brian Branch. I don't know who. I mean, who's the slot right now? I wouldn't trust the Debo playing the
Rashid
slot.
Shaheed.
I mean,
Oh,
Rashid
defensively.
Shaheed might be
Sorry.
better. Well, yeah, yeah, defensive slot. I was gonna
Yeah.
say it. Even with Shaheed, I might trust Shaheed over Debo in the slot. I don't know, but
Hmm.
if they stumbled across Brian Branch and they pulled the trigger on that, I wouldn't hate it.
It's seen several, different corners connected to the Saints here in the past few days, various whether it be and there's been quite a few that they'll do for either bring in visits or actually just spending a little bit extra work with, but is there a corner that you're just like in love with? Like a lot of people like a Joey Porter Jr. And I'll be honest, I think a lot of people like it because they see the name, but still, he's a
It's
first round talent.
like a. Are you wait? Say it again. You said, is there a corner that I would?
Yeah, like a corner that you're just in love with, DJ.
Uh, I guess I would say Christian Gonzalez, even though there's no way he would be in range. But I think
Yeah,
because he
it's
has scheme versatility, like I mean, obviously the Saints majority of the time like to play press man, but I think his versatility to be able to play zone, to be able to play quarters, he's got ball skills. I mean, he's okay in man. He's not like Lattimore or something, but he's good enough
mhm.
to hang. So I guess I could see that, and I like Porter. The only thing with Porter that I've noticed is he's super physical, right? Which
Yeah.
I mean that could be a double edged sword. Like he can be a dog and be physical and be hands on, but then he could also get pass interference every other drive because that's just how he plays. Um, Neither of which I see falling, which is why I kind of circle back to Branch, even though he's not a true corner. But if I were to pick two corners, I would say first and foremost Christian Gonzalez because of his scheme versatility.
Funny guy Ben throws in because we were just talking about it. Says Kalijah Cansey might have a Darius Geis type draft. And not even saying he can't be good NFL player. Just think teams don't like the size. Will have to prove himself. And I think, and just to be fair to NFL teams, it's not just like a bunch of old fuddy duddies here not liking a guy because he's new age and they're stuck in the past. It's you look at just the size profile. Now I realize that 6 foot 280 is different than being like 6'5", 280, right? But still, when we talk about being undersized, Tano Passignon weighs 290. And he's 6'7", but he's a rotating defensive end who's played a 3-man front with Kansas City. He's played a 4-man front with us, but he's a rotational guy because he doesn't have consistent success. And one of those is because he's a tweener sized player. He's not a consistent dominator, but he definitely is a great spot filler. I think that's
Right.
the problem with Kansas is he shows the ability to be a great spot filler. And I'll be honest, on passing downs, I'd love to have freaking Kansas right there as a 3 tech going upfield. Very similar to how a few years ago when you had David Onyemata and Sheldon Rankins on the field at the same time. 2 nice 3 tech penetrators. I'd be good with that. But then when I look at Kansas, I go, there's no way I would spend a first rounder on a guy. And this is just a personal rule. And I say it all the time, so at least I'm consistent. I'm not spending a first round on a guy who's going to play 30-40% of the snaps. I'm just personally not doing it. That's just
Right.
not me. And the
And I
team has done
mean,
it, but I'm not going to do it.
and two things that come to mind with Cansey is I hear a lot of people, I don't know if you want to call it an excuse, but they'll say like, surround him with other tackles that are huge to make up for his lack of size. And my question is, how does that make sense? Like at the end of the day, he still has to fend for himself when he's out there. He can be surrounded by other people, but I mean, if he gets reached, he's gonna get reached. And then I saw a graphic today, people like Trevor Penning, who's 600 or who's 6'7" and 325 pounds. Does anyone want to see Kansas get his hands put on by Trevor Penning or someone of that similar size profile? I mean,
Well, it's like
that's
as
a
much trash
that's
as Saints fans love to throw at somebody like an Anders Pete. Anders Pete would take Kansas to the freaking dog pound. More
right. I
snaps than he
mean,
wouldn't.
Pete is about the same size, damn near. I mean, maybe give or take, 10, 15 pounds, but that's still a 6'5", 320 pound human being. And Kansas
Mm-hmm.
is 270 at best. Like after a good breakfast or something like that. Like that's too light. That's not going to
And that's
work.
why I like because people like there's somebody in the chat. It's Ben saying, "Would you take Cansey at 40?" I'll be honest. Personally, I would not. And that's only because of who I think is potentially available in that same range. Like if I'm looking at Edibawore, who's one is more of an edge player anyway, but if we're going to take somebody that maybe is slightly undersized but still fits better, I would do that because I look at Cansey. I don't think he's going to be a defensive end in the NFL. He's got to be an interior guy because another thing that I hear some people talk about, but not enough, we made fun of T-Rex for having short arms, right?
Right.
Yeah, but he had 32 and a half inch arms. Cansey has
Right.
30-inch arms. Like, if he does not win immediately, he is done. And that's what his tape shows. Now, the good thing is he does win a lot. So it's not like Cansey is bad. But when we're talking about like just consistent success, he does not have the physical makeup to be a consistent dominant player. And we can love the Sam Mills, the Jabari Greers, these players that are undersized who dominate. But the truth is they're rare. They're outliers. And it can happen. But if you're a team that is sitting at below 500 and you're trying to take a step forward, look, there's something to be said for taking a risk on potential. But it's a lot easier to take a risk on potential when you've already got a good damn team. Like 2017.
Right.
Yeah, we can draft whatever the hell we want. 2018, we can draft whatever the hell we want. We're a playoff team. You kind of need to have a better estimation of what you're getting right now.
I would even say if this was last year's Saints D line. Now, obviously, they were horrible against the run, but like you had Onyemata, you had other guys that could rotate. Like if you take a defensive tackle in the first round, he's going to start, or you would at least hope that he starts. Otherwise, it's probably a blown pick. And I don't know how you anchor a defensive line around a 270-pound defensive tackle. And people say like, Aaron Donald. Well, that's 1 in a million type of situation. You can't make rules based off of a Hall of Fame exception.
Yeah, I mean, unless you truly believe that Cansey's a Hall of Famer, which if you do, that's fine. I would argue though that there's some differences between Donald and Cansey, so it's not exactly the same there either.
Right.
Again, and I'm not trying to trash talk the guy. I'm really not, because it almost sounds like I am, and I truly am not trying to do that. But like, just to use the Aaron Donald as an example, his arms are like 2.5 inches longer. Like he's got a wider wingspan. He's right at 6 foot, but he's 285-ish when he was, I think when he came to the combine, he was 285, 290, and he may play at 280, but Aaron Donald is special, right? And Cansey maybe can be special, but unless you really know, and look, if you're a Saints fan and you want to take a guy like this at 40, I'm completely okay with that. But I'm more looking at, okay, what if Miles Murphy is around? Same area. Like, what if that's who's available in the draft? Keon White even. If I know some of these edge guys that we have in this class are a smidge smaller, but I think that there's enough there to find the prototype you're looking for that fits what you are. I've already mentioned Edibawore several times, but we're just talking about those first 50 picks. I think there's too many other names available that you feel can actually contribute right now versus a rotational guy, because you do have 2 starting defensive tackles. These might not necessarily be good ones. You really don't have a starting edge guy opposite Cam Jordan unless you just truly believe that either 1, Peyton Turner is going to play and be a damn good player in his 3rd year, or 2, you are in love with Carl Granderson.
And look, I wanted to ask you about, speaking of edge, because I started watching him yesterday, but Lucas Van Ness. And I just was curious as to what you thought, because I mean, I've seen a lot of pre-draft hype around him, and honestly, after watching him,
So I like him, but this goes back to the same thing I talked about with Peyton Turner, Davenport. There's a lot of raw, really, really good traits in him. He's got great play strength, very good flexibility. Love his first step off the line, for his body type and everything. I think he's got a great motor on the field. We always talk about motor being so good for defensive linemen, but he does not have a great pass rush repertoire. He has to grow that. He needs more moves. He has to understand pass rush plans more. He does not have a ton of experience. He is developmental. Would I take him in the first? Personally, no. Would the Saints? Honestly, I don't think the Saints would either, because he doesn't really fit the physical profile. He's a little bit light, but he's right there. He's like a 2nd round, 3rd round type of a guy for me. Same thing that I would have said about Davenport and did say about Davenport for years. And he can capture the edge. He's got some good moves, but is he a really well-rounded player to come out? I don't think that he is. Again, that's the kind of the case with, there's a lot of edge players that you can have in chat that you love. And hey, Scoob, good to see you. If anybody wants to jump in here on the phone line, feel free to pull on in. There's a lot of guys that you can name in the edge class that all have potential, but there's not a lot of edge guys who are like ready to go right now. And then you have a worse problem with interior defensive line, because we can talk about Cansey, but really after him, there is nobody at 3-Tech. There's three main names that people have brought up for 3-Tech every time we brought it up, and that is Jalen Carter, who I do not believe is anywhere close to the Saints pick, though I do believe has the potential to be the next Aaron Donald / Warren Sapp, etc. Then you have Kalijah Cansey, who is grossly undersized but super productive and has all the traits. And then you have Brian Breesy, who is almost good, but again, raw, and will he ever round out and be consistent and be a dominant player? And that's it. That's really all the 3-Techs that anybody thinks has a legitimate starting chance in year one. That's it. Literally, those are the names. Nobody else. Everybody else that is in that same conversation are 1-Techs. Like, the fact that Mozzie Smith is getting talked about so much, and I'm not saying that to be negative, or like Siaki Ika, that's how you pronounce his name, I think. These are 1-Techs, man. These are big run stoppers. You know how weak your defensive tackle class has to be for 2 run stoppers to be the ones that people are talking about? That shows your defensive tackle class is weak. No offense to run stoppers, but in 2023, who's taking run stoppers in the first round? It can happen, I guess. Is it likely? Doubtful. Could happen. But it's like I've seen people mock the Saints taking Smith. I'm like, why? Why would you take one, you've already signed a guy who's basically that player but 3 years older than Saunders. But even if you did take him, and now you've got 2 big-ass 1-Techs, neither of them are playing on the field 100% of the time. So it doesn't make a lot of sense. You know, the roster on the defensive side needs an update. It needed a refresh probably last year. You talked about, TJ, how we had a little bit of D-line depth, but honestly, it wasn't even great then, right? So they've needed a refresh here. Sadly for the Saints, there's not a lot of game day ready guys unless they make a move. And I don't know if anybody in chat wants them to make a move, but you look at like the Tyree Wilsons from the Red Raiders, the Miles Murphys, guys who kind of fit closer to the prototype size, everything that New Orleans looks with. You can kind of talk about some of the other guys, but I really don't think that a Felix Uzama has really much of a chance to be a Saints player just based on fit and prototype. I don't think that a Nolan Smith has much of a chance to be that because of fit and prototype. I think a Zach Harrison has a better chance of being selected, even though everybody probably in chat would agree that Nolan Smith is a better pass rusher. But who actually fits the team better? And that matters, right? So, tricky spot to be in. Like Ben brings up Nolan Smith, and I'm not denying that he's an explosive player, but I'm just going to tell y'all right now, where do you play him on this team? I don't see where that is. He's literally the size of Roquan Smith as an edge player. He needs to stand up. He needs to be in space. He's not going to be a hand in the dirt edge player in the NFL. He's just not. I don't see it. Somebody could do it. Maybe. Maybe I'm wrong. But remember, that man is small. Like, that is light. And we talking about Cansey. He's got the same problem. The good thing for Nolan Smith, though, he's a little bit more versatile as a tweener, right? Like, he can be an off-ball linebacker and scrape and float, and he might have to learn those tools, maybe not to the degree that Zach Ball needed to and hasn't ever done, but I think Smith can do that. Whereas Cansey's more of like, could you turn him into a defensive end in a 4-man front? Maybe. But even then, like, he has limitations because one of the things that you want from an exterior pass rusher is not only upfield burst and speed and all these other things we talk about, but if you're listening to this podcast, y'all want guys who can dominate from a bull rush, who can speed rush, who can run the arc. It's damn hard to be effective if you don't have length to do that. If you don't have length to do that, it's hard. It's easier to get away with lack of length in the interior than it is the exterior. And that goes for offensive and defensive line. If you've got 30-inch arms, your best bet's to be a 3-tech, not playing wide 9 and then trying to rush into these 6'7", 300-pound, 34-inch arm left tackles. It just, I don't know where you put him in. I'm kind of the same way with Nolan Smith for the Saints. Where would I even put him on the field? And I don't think there's an answer for that if you're a Saints fan, unless you believe that they're going to rebuild the defense around a guy of his talent. And I don't think you rebuild a team around a guy who's probably a second-round, fringe first-round talent. He's not a first-round fit for New Orleans. But we've definitely seen them take guys that fit more than they are developed. So let's go to the chat. And if you're listening right now live, throw in some of the names that you are into or some of the names that you think really fit this team or that you are in love with. Even if you don't know if they fit, just name a guy that you think would go really well on the team. And it doesn't matter. I will say that we have seen pretty consistently, I think, in the past week that just about everybody that can be named has been named. Like there's everybody's like, oh man, y'all don't know about this tight end, except now all of Twitter's posting about the tight end. So whoever y'all got, we'll talk about them and we'll kind of cover what they can do, maybe how they fit and what they can do on the team. I see one here in the chat I want to grab from Collection. Says Keanu Benton, which size-wise, definitely getting closer to what we're talking about being that prototype. I really liked his athletic scores. He didn't have the same hype that others have gotten, but dude, he put up 25 reps at the bench. That's pretty good, right? For a guy his size, he's got great length. He's right at 34-inch arms. I know that's not everything. Like just having the body doesn't make you an elite player, but he has the form of it. Now let's talk about some of his drawbacks that I saw when I watched a little bit of him. I think I watched 2 games of him. Wisconsin, again, if it's not an SEC team, I probably don't have like 6 or 7 games laying around of all 22 for him. But he doesn't have an elite first step, like at the snap, which is a problem for some people. But guess what? Now that it's Mozzie Smith that everybody's in love with, he is a little bit slower to read blockers. So his reaction time is a little bit slower. I think experience can maybe help with that. I do love his strength. I think that he plays with a very firm foundation, good anchor, good frame. I like some of his penetration. And I think that he's got very heavy hands, which I love. Like when he hits a guy and he gets inside hand placement, you can see it on tape. Like it rocks him. And I love that. Heavy hands. He'll come at you with him and he plays with power. Best way to really describe him in terms of how he plays, very much like David Onyemata. And you just lost David Onyemata. And while Onyemata never lived up to what you wanted him to be, he was still a good player. He just wasn't an elite player. Like Onyemata never became great, but he was still good, right? So I would actually be completely okay with a Benton pick. The question then becomes, well, when do you select that player? And if we're talking about taking him first overall, then you've kind of lost me a little bit. But if we're talking about him being a round 3 pick, I'm right there. Like a guy who can come in, play that position at the 3, and get more experience and get better. And even if he starts off as a starter, I think that he could be a good player. He just has a lot that needs to get developed, like how he engages with blockers, how he disengages, more importantly, with blockers, and then how he wins at the point of attack, giving him some more layers to his, just his entire style. And I think pad level will help with that when it comes to run stopping, because that's something that he's not necessarily amazing at, but he can be much better at it. And I think that his athletic marks show that he can be better than some of what his tape is showing if you could develop it out of him. So as a 3rd-round pick, I'm down for it, right? Definitely down for it. Sam says Zach Bond is a really decent football player. He was drafted in the wrong system. On the right team, he may be a starter. Yeah, maybe, Sam. I said when he got drafted that he didn't really fit New Orleans. Now, I understood the vision. It just didn't work out. I get the vision, though. The vision makes sense. It just didn't work. I do agree that there's potential he could be a starter somewhere else. I will add, though, there are not a lot of teams running that offside, like just pure weak rusher that he would fit really well into. The only team that just jumps to mind, and I'd have to actually check if they've done the past couple years, but the most recent example I can think of that is like, damn, that could be Zach Bond, would be Harold Landry with Tennessee Titans. playing that linebacker spot, but also having more of an emphasis as a pass rusher. That's really what they kind of focus in on him with. And they do use him off ball and everything. They do use him in multiple situations. He's not just a pure pass rusher. But coming out of college, that was his thing. He was an elite pass rusher, not an elite linebacker who needed to develop more to be more. And they've worked on that with him. But first and foremost, he was going to be the guy that they use to hit the quarterback. And that's what he's done. I think he usually leads the team over there in blitzing. He's always going to be top 3 in terms of their blitz metrics. That's what I think that you could have had with a Zach Bond on the right team. A Harold Landry type of a player. Harold Landry, I think, did he make a Pro Bowl last year? I'm pretty sure he did. Because I know it was his first year with double-digit sacks. I'm pretty sure he made the Pro Bowl. So, yeah, Zach Bond, I think, could have been much better at that. But New Orleans was adamant that they could turn him into a full-on linebacker who also could rush the passer. Basically, they hoped what would happen to Zach Bond actually ended up happening to Caden Ellis. They said Zach Bond was a better pass rusher coming into the league. But it happened to Caden Ellis, not Zach Bond, at least not yet. I mean, maybe he does end up having that trajectory. Keep in mind, Caden Ellis took years to do that. Caden Ellis is not a guy who's been playing the league like 2 years. Like Caden Ellis is, I think, 28. Let me look up Caden Ellis. How old is Caden Ellis real quick? Caden Ellis is 27, turns 28 in 3 months. So before the season started, he'll be 28 years old. Because he was with us for like 4 years. You know, and he didn't get any opportunity to start until mostly last year. And I think he started like the last game of the season in 2021, something like that. So it took him years to work up to that spot. Zach Bond has a tighter microscope on him because he was drafted higher. But you were kind of wanting the same thing from both of them. And it hasn't happened yet. But anyway, there's you a name. Trevin brings us another name. Colby Wooden. Now, this one I don't have a ton on. So what I'm going to do for Colby Wooden is I'm actually going to go and pull up Lance Zierlein's report. Those that don't know, Lance Zierlein's former scout who now works with NFL.com. There's a ton of former scouts out there that you can pull up if you want. I know I said SEC, he's at Auburn, and I have watched him, but I didn't make like a full-on scouting report in my notebook. And for a lot of these guys, I do. Keep in mind there's a ton of edge players in this class. So when I talk about guys that I've watched Will Anderson, even though I don't believe he makes it. I've watched Miles Murphy. I've watched Derek Hall a little bit. Again, kind of the same thing. One, I don't think he was really sized for New Orleans, and two, meh. Tyree Wilson, I've watched a bit of. Lucas Van Ness, I did out of curiosity. Edibore, I did. Lots of Tennessee tape, thanks to y'all with Hendon Hooker. So Byron Young, I have. Nolan Smith, I did because Nolan Smith. Felix Uzama, I did, but again, I don't really think with a size. So Foskey, if anybody likes Isaiah Foskey, which I've only got one singular game of him watched, but it's all 22, so I guess it counts. But anyway, Colby Wooden is meh for me. I think he's good. He is another guy that I like his size. I saw his combine scores are pretty good. Here's what Lance Zierlein said about him. Defensive line prospects whose steady weight gain and frame development have allowed him to see the game at a variety of alignments. Wooden is at his most disruptive when attacking from the interior. Is a quick first step to attack gaps and threaten the pocket, but he's unable to sit down and drop a deep anchor against bullies in the run game. Wooden's activity level and hand skill are the keys to his current and future success. They allow him to keep pressure on blockers from snap to whistle. High football character and scheme versatility work in his favor, but he'll need to find the right team fit. So here's my issue with him. It's actually very similar to Cansey. Now he has much better length than Cansey, but he is not good enough to be a defensive end. Most of his great snaps, like if you want to say he had great snaps in Auburn, were like as an interior 3-tech. There ain't no way you're going to have a 270-pound guy be a 3-tech in the NFL. He will get raw dogged. I'm just being real. I'm not trying to be graphic. I'm just being honest. They're going to road grade his ass 3 yards back, like from the snap. You're not going to have consistent dominance in the interior in the NFL because, look, college is college. And I know everybody loves the SEC and there's a bias to the SEC, especially us in the South. But just going to be real with you. In the NFL, everybody's freaking good. In college, not everybody is freaking good. Like as much as you want to hate on, the worst offensive lineman. Freaking Hurst being the left guard. Let's just say Anders Pete's out because y'all like to make fun of Anders Pete. Let's say Hurst is playing left guard. Hurst is still a freaking road grader and better than almost every college guard you've ever seen. That's just the nature of the NFL. Like, even the backups are damn good. Same thing with basketball. Like, anybody ever played basketball with like a college level athlete and he just absolutely smoked your ass? Same thing. NFL is a huge ass jump. And there's a reason some of these physical, markers exist. Again, unless you think that he's special and he can bulk up 15 pounds and be Aaron Donald, good prospect. But the scheme versatility works against him. And I go back to the same argument I made about Teno Passignon, a guy that I definitely want to see, can he be a playmaker? So when I'm looking at where would I draft for Colby Wooden, 3rd round. Same thing that I was talking before about a couple other guys. Like we just said about Keanu Benton, 3rd round. Can he develop into a full-time starter? Definitely has the traits and the potential. Do you see that ceiling is there? Do you trust him to be a guy that go out right now and play? I don't. I wouldn't put a top 50 pick on him. I'd draft him in the 3rd round, maybe 2nd round if you believe that he's your guy and that somebody else is going to go for him. But that's kind of my thing with him. I love his versatility, though. But the versatility thing is always a double-edged sword coming out of college, right? Like, versatility says you can play multiple spots, but at the same time, you're not good enough to be an elite guy at one spot. So he shed weight for the combine, close to 280 Auburn. So Trevin, I know he was listed at 280. And in fact, if you go to, just because I want to give multiple sources out there, if you go to like Draft Network used his listed weight from Auburn, which I think was 284. Even at 284, though, that is too small to be a 3-tech in the NFL. Now, it's fine to be an edge guy, which I think he's better at. I think that Colby can be a very, very good edge player. That's what he shows the potential to be. I think that's what he's set to be. It's just, I think when you look at his snaps, the best snaps he probably had at Auburn were when he would slide inside. So I think that he can be a very good NFL player, and he's got the length to where I don't worry about it like I worry about with Kancey. I do think that his frame can hold the weight well, too. He's got a very nice frame. He actually fits very close to the prototype New Orleans likes for their edge guys. I just don't think he's an NFL-level starter right now. But I do think that he has the ability to make that type of a move if you want him to. And I think just as Lance Zierlein has said in his report, the big thing that'll escalate Wooden is the hand usage. And if I had to pick between Wooden and Benton, probably go Wooden. Because I think edge is more in the wheelhouse of what you really need for New Orleans than Benton, who I think is a more natural 3-tech. And I would take either one of these guys, honestly. I really would. But those are just kind of like my brief thoughts on since we're talking about that. If you're still doing film studies, can you do one on our linebacker, DeMarco? So, Lester, what I'll probably do is maybe something of that after the draft, but not before, because we've got a week before the draft, and we're going to do, like, I'm sure all of us are. We're all going to do our last-minute crams on guys that we like or dislike in the draft, right? So, remind me after the draft, maybe a couple weeks after the draft, because obviously right after the draft, we're going to really break down who the Saints picked. Makes sense. Come around May, June, yeah, we can definitely jump into that because he's intriguing, right? And maybe he's the next Caden Ellis who jumps up and manages to catch our eye and be a guy that becomes a very good starter. And I want him to have all the success, by the way, Caden Ellis, as long as the Falcons don't beat the Saints and the Falcons don't make the playoffs. I want Caden Ellis to have a damn good year. I really do. He's just a very likable player. I think he's a very likable player. I don't know how y'all feel about him, but I think he's a very likable player. So let's talk about another one just because I see it in chat, and we want to do a little bit of a positional change just because, again, I don't want to stick just on the defensive line. But Trevin says Corey Trice is also slept on, so I was happy the Saints met with him. This is one that he's depth. If you pick him, we're in that same range again, man. We're staying in that, like, 3rd round, like where I would take a third to 5th for Trice, honestly. But I think that's completely fine for him. When I did watch him, remember he's at Purdue, and I saw a guy that I loved how he matched routes. I think he had really good length and size, which is something that you want in an NFL caliber corner. Because you just can't teach being, 33-inch arms. You can't teach being 6'3", and being 6'3" and still running a 4.4, because most of those guys get turned into wide receivers. So I love how he uses the boundary. One thing that you can, if you want to talk about stuff that he does really well, he uses that space with him on the boundary really, really well. I think he's a very strong player for a corner, good play strength. I don't think he's a great run defender, though, which is kind of problematic because Saints kind of already have that in Paulson Debo. But anyway, and I think that he needs to get better at being fluid. One of the drawbacks to him having the length that he does is he doesn't have that same level of like ankle flexion, hip fluidity that you really want to maintain. And I think another thing with him, like if he's had to pick another negative, is I can't think of a game that I watched where I really saw him have that other gear, like defending a straight nine. And what I mean by that, like just a pure vert route. I don't remember him having that extra gear. So once he hit his speed, that's his speed. And you didn't really see that acceleration. You didn't really see that extra oomph. And there are techniques you can learn to do that. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson did it against Tom freaking Brady. And if Chauncey can do it, then other guys can do it. But I think, again, we're talking about him, another guy that needs more development. Ball skills, I would say he's got decent hands, but he's more likely to give you pass breakups and interceptions. So he's very much like Marshawn Lattimore in that sense. I don't think it's a bad thing. It's a bad thing. And Brian says no more Clemson players. I'll never understand why people don't like certain schools. I mean, I'm not going to grade a guy based on the school he went to. I'm going to grade him based off his traits, his situations, his games, and even the competition he goes against. I don't really care what school he's at, but I know some people do. I don't really care. Like, there was a lot of people who were like, never draft Alabama corners. They never pan out. And then when one pans out, that all dies down. Like, people stop talking about it. But that was a big thing. I think it was, what was it, Marlon Humphrey? People wouldn't stop talking about that. Yeah, they never work out, man. You can't draft corners from Alabama. They suck. And then Marlon Humphrey got drafted, 5 years ago, and he's been an all-pro, like a 3-time Pro Bowler. He led the league in forced fumbles like he's Peanut Tillman one year. I mean, he's not a big ball hawk, but he's a damn good player. So where you're at doesn't really matter. What matters is how you personally perform. And this is why trait-based analysis is so big. And this is how you're able to find these elite players at Bloomberg, Arkansas, because you study traits, not the school. School doesn't mean anything. School don't mean crap. Throw school out the window. Who do they play against? How do they look? And what traits do they put out on tape? And if that box gets checked, all those get checked, then you start looking at the medicals. Do they clear? Then you do the interview process, and then you even talk to the coaches. Regardless of whether you like the coaches or not, you check that stuff. So I'm completely cool with anybody being from any school as long as they put out the tape that shows that they're a good player. Now, if they don't have the tape, and I know there are a lot of people who will love an LSU player just because they're LSU, it's the same on the opposite side. Just because LSU is quote unquote DB university doesn't mean that you just trust every DB coming out of LSU. Don't do that. That's how you get hurt. There's good ones that come out of LSU, but that's how you get hurt. Don't do that. Right? So one thing I will say, that if you are on a bigger name school, like a Clemson, like an Alabama, what is going to happen is you're going to get a lot more eyeballs on you. You're going to get a lot more tape time. You're going to get seen a lot more. And by that very nature, you're going to be more well known, for better or for worse. And there are a lot of times that college players are very well known players, but don't have the traits to be successful in the NFL. And they get expectations placed on them that should never have been there in the first place. That does happen. So all these things, grain of salt when you go through it. Grain of salt. What are the names that we got? What are the names we got? I know we got more. I'm going to go grab some, but Ohio State quarterbacks always suck. See, Mr. Don, like that conversation I've never got. Like, is there a school out there right now that's just making elite quarterbacks that I'm not aware of? Because look at the random ass schools that quarterbacks have come from, which actually kind of proves my point to an extent. Like, look at the recent NFL draft and look at where all these quarterbacks are coming from. What school out there is exactly making elite quarterbacks that we're in love with here? Like, to speak to a team that we just got told don't draft from, Trevor Lawrence, he was at Clemson. He's doing pretty damn good for himself. Shout out Clemson. Had a Pro Bowl. Matters, right? So, what schools out here just making elite quarterbacks and withholding them from the league? I'm not into the school argument. Isaiah McGuire feels like a Saints in. Trevin, that name has been popping up a lot more. Well, honestly, it's only been like in the past 4 or 5 days. Now, I'm not sure how much y'all get active on draft Twitter, but that one has been like, that's everybody's supposed unknown favorite. And he gets brought up a lot. I'd say that. And by the way, anybody that wants to join the Discord and bring in and jump into the voice, remember Thursday nights, this is y'all's night. Y'all come in. I'd say I've had more people send to me their edge rusher that was their secret love was McGuire. And I have nothing against that. I mean, he's got a lot of things I love. I think he's a developmental pick. I think he's a 3rd or 4th round guy. Very similar to what we were just talking about with a couple other players. There's a lot of stuff to really love about him. One thing that I do really like about him as an edge player, dude is really freaking good as a run defender. Like, already. Most edge guys focus almost entirely on being edge guys. Like, rush the passer. That's what I do. I get sacks, which is fine. You definitely want your guy to get sacks. But the cool thing about Dwyer, even though I don't think that he is very polished as a pass rusher, he's got that, but he's actually a really good run defender too. Great physical traits. I loved his motor when I watched him. He's good athletic profile. I'd have to pull up his RAS real quick and see what it is because I don't remember when I don't remember what it is. Let's see if we can say Isaiah McGuire's RAS score. Yeah, 9.53. That's pretty damn good. That's pretty damn good. So, yeah, I'm down with that. But again, is he a guy that I trust as a first-time starter? No, but that doesn't mean I don't like him. I think if you put him around 3, that's a completely good pick for him. Hell, you could argue taking him higher than that if you really believe that because you're very shallow in depth there, that he could be a year 1 starter. Because as much as we want to talk how Davenport never panned out, one thing Davenport did really, really well was he was the best in man on the line of scrimmage for that side of the ball. Like, he was a very good defender. He understood his assignments very well. And he consistently performed at a high level as an all-around defensive end when he was on the field. Now, was he always a high-end pass rusher? No, which is exactly why you drafted him and you trade all those, all that capital to go up and get him in the first. But he was still a damn good end. And we've seen Dennis Allen's defense demands a really good end. It does. They need to have a very well-rounded, very good end. So we talk about a guy being a fit for a particular team. Isaiah McGuire is that for New Orleans. I think he fits really, really well. He has the athletic profile. He's a little bit smaller in terms of weight than what they typically go with, but it's only like 5-10 pounds. It's not a lot. It's not like, you're talking about a guy being 20 pounds underweight for his position. I think he's got the frame. I think that kind of grows on him. I think he's fine. But yeah, I mean, he plays right around 270. He's not light. Just a little. So yeah. I'm down for that. Brian says, I bring up Clemson because the hype about Saints taking Breezy or Murphy, and I think is a mistake. For me, it's all about win. Like, I've been very open about what I think about Brian Breezy, and that, just to put it simply, he is very unpolished, very raw, but has a lot of talent. To me, he's a second-round player. Like, if I'm handing out grades, who's a first-round grade guy? Remember, any given year, there's probably only 15 to 25 total players who have a first-round grade for a specific team. I think Brian Breezy is a second-round type of a talent. I think he's good, but he's not amazing. He doesn't necessarily pop off the page, but he has a lot of things that you like. My biggest reason why I don't like him in New Orleans has nothing to do with his on field play. It's actually his off field. And his off field being, this dude's a walking durability concern. Literally, he's got like 3 years of red flag medical checks. That's the biggest thing. Now, I actually like Murphy, maybe more than Brian does. But Reese, my biggest thing to make me go, that dude is a walking medical red flag. And maybe he goes to the NFL and he never has a damn problem. But if I'm the New Orleans Saints who have struggled with this, no, that's my big no on him. Now, when I actually watch him, he's a very good athlete and it translates well on the field. Like you see him operating in the interior and his athleticism is evident versus high-end talent. Like he's going against the best teams in college and he's doing really well, very good. I think that he's very versatile. I think that his size is actually perfect for the position. He's got great length, good arms, great hands, heavy hands. I think his athletics were very, very nice. He's a guy that on tape looks really good. You can beat him if you run directly at him with like double teams and stuff, but that's also basically every 3-tech in the NFL. 3-techs are not generally great run defenders. You got to be an elite 3-tech to start being so well-rounded. But in terms of as a player, he's a prototype 3-tech, looks good, second round, needs a polish to be better. Negatives, I don't think in the past 2 years he's had a single season, or even maybe the past 3 years, where he played more than 500 snaps. For reference, the average defense in the NFL plays 800 to 1,000 snaps. He has had injury concerns for 3 years. That's my big thing on him. Now, Myles Murphy, I probably don't have as many negatives to say about him. But again, if you took Brian Breesy in the second round, I'm not going to be upset, but I will go, I probably would have had other people instead. I would have rather have had other people. But, yeah. Medicals are so overblown. How's he supposed to stop a kidney infection? Trevin, it's not about, this is going to sound stupid, but hear me out. It's not as much about what it is as much as it keeps popping up. So when you take a look at it, and I agree with what you're saying, when you take a look at specific things that happen to a guy, which I think context is important. We harp context all the time. But it's when things continually pop up all the time. When you see a single player having, no matter what it is, if it happens, it's there, right? The consistency of being on that report is the flag. Now, to be clear, it's not just a kidney infection. And I don't blame him from taking time away from football because of the death of his sister. I didn't even bring that up, but I'm going to bring it up because he did miss time because of that. But he's had an ACL injury. He had shoulder surgery. This is not a guy who has just had like, oh, he got a kidney infection and he missed a crap ton of games, and that's scary because kidney infections can be very dangerous. So this is a guy who's had legitimate serious injuries, and he consistently shows up on a medical report. That's the problem. Now, Coach Rudy wants to come in and chat. Coach Rudy, inviting you to the stage. Who's your draft crush? What do you think about everything we're bringing up? And just unmute yourself and come on through.
How's it going, Deuce?
Going great. How you doing?
I'm doing great. It's,
All right.
It's been a while since I've actually seen. It's been a while since I actually either jumped in or even came to your channel because. But I enjoy the show. First off,
Appreciate it. So who you got?
well, to be honest, I've actually been kind of doing a whole. I have a whole list of my whole. I don't have a. I'm trying not to overdo it and.
Well, give me your top one because I don't know if we can go through your whole list, but give me your top one. Who's your biggest?
I've noticed what the. I noticed what the. Well, I looked at what we needed. We needed a lot of different people, especially on the interior line.
Yeah. So who's your guy?
The person and one person we have a position of need is at the tackle. And the one person who really is high on my list right now, and I'm kind of keeping an eye on. His name is Nick Salvadiri from Old Dominion.
Okay.
He's an offensive tackle.
So what about him that makes you love him? Why are you in love with him?
Well, I looked up not only highlights but also like crap.
still there, man?
One sec. You still hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, because I have a random thing that just popped up. I'm trying to get rid of it, you know.
Yeah, tell me why you like him so much.
Well, the thing is, a lot of them, as you know, a lot of people try to focus on the big school names. You know, this is actually a smaller school, and a lot of the smaller schools, some they actually put a lot more emphasis on the heart of the matter. You know, and they actually focus on like, hey, might not be here tomorrow. You know, they might not be here tomorrow for me, so I'm gonna put in the work and actually do what I can. I've actually looked up his pros and cons.
Mm-hmm.
One of he's, even though they might not think he comes from a small college, he actually, believe it or not, is in a way, it's kind of like, well, Trevor Penning if he didn't get injured. He fights to the whistle, you know, and pretty much plays and even beyond the whistle a little bit. But he's very coachable, you know.
That's fair
And
enough, man.
I'm like, he's, and at first I was like kind of iffy, but until I started like, let me check out his strengths and weaknesses. I saw some of his, I kind of almost forgot his negatives, but I'm like, I try not to focus too much on that, but I keep that in the back of my mind just in case it doesn't pan out, you know. And if we don't get him in, I feel like he has the ability to go, not first round, no. At least, I want to say mid third to about fourth round, you know.
You think he's going to go? Because I think the only person from there that probably gets drafted is Kuntz, tight end.
Yeah, but the thing is, when was the last time there's been several good tackles come out of small schools, you know?
Well, yeah, but just because guys have come out of small schools doesn't mean that everybody coming out of small schools is an NFL player.
I mean,
right?
that is true. That's also the flip side of it too, you know? Just because they didn't come out of a great program doesn't mean they'll do well, you know?
Yeah, and that's why scouting, you don't care about the school. Like you focus on the traits.
No. So. I mean, I got a couple like on all the. I have like a few. Believe it or not, I actually have a few bigger name schools, not too big, you know. Believe it or not, I actually have I actually have a guard that's actually from Arkansas Pine Bluff. That's hilarious.
All right, man. Look, I want to grab a couple more because we're getting close to an hour, but I appreciate you jumping in and giving me your favorite at Old Dominion.
No problem, dude. Thanks so much, dude.
Thanks, Rudy.
Have a good one.
And I also see Newbie and Jerry, y'all down there. If y'all want to jump in real quick, feel free to throw your hand up, and we'll get y'all right before we get close because we are hitting an hour. But I still want to hear more draft crushes. Jerry, inviting you to the stage now, man. You come tell me who your name is, who you in love with, and tell me why.
What's going on, Deuce?
What's up, dog?
Not much, man. Hey, I'm since we're about a week away from the draft.
Yeah, we're literally 7 days.
Yes.
I'm excited. Get excited. I can't wait for the Saints to trade up and take a guy that we should have taken in the third.
Now, Deuce, I want to speak to you on that. Instead of, because I know I've seen this before. Instead of like trading up or trading down to get the player that we need, I feel more comfortable just staying put at number 29 and just get a defensive lineman or defensive tackle because that's basically the biggest need we need for like right now.
Mm-hmm.
And I was looking at this what that boy Clancy.
Yeah.
That's the one I'm looking at.
You like him?
Yeah, I like him.
I'm just so torn on him, man. I get why you like him. I do. Like, and I can't argue against the traits. I can't get over the size. I just can't. So
yeah, that's a big dude, bro.
I think he's gonna be a guy that
I would love to snatch him at number 29.
I think Kansas is gonna be, because of him only being 280 for a 3-tech. I think he's gonna be a guy that is literally not on probably 20 teams' boards. Like, I think that there's literally 20 teams who will not even consider him for the first 2 rounds. There's gonna be another 5 to 10 who do. And then it's going to take one of those believing another one's going to take him for him to go in the first.
Right.
But that size is going to be tough for him, man. He's got the short wingspan and the low weight for his position. But what he does or what he put out on tape is just damn good. It's just NFL boys are big and strong. Tough. But I get why people love him.
Yeah. How tall is this Clancy guy?
Well, he's right at 6 foot, so he's pretty short, and then he's only got 30-inch arms, which is, it's got a lot of people questioning.
That's like a big wingspan right there or something?
That's pretty short. Usually, when we're talking wingspan for like an interior defensive lineman, his wingspan's probably 7 to 8 inches shorter than what you would normally look for in a prototype, because his arms are only 30 inches. Normally, you're looking for probably at least 32, 33. So he's a little small, but at the same time, he's explosive. Like he's got great hands. He's got great penetration ability. He's very flexible, great athlete.
And he reads well. Yeah.
Yeah. He does all the things that you want a good football player to do. It just comes down to, can he overcome his physical limitations? And if he can, then you're talking about him being an absolute stud. If he can't, then he literally, because this gets used too much, I would actually call Cansey a boomer bust. It's very rare that a player is a literal boomer bust player. He gets overused a lot, but that's him. He's either going to work in the NFL or he's literally going to be out in 3 years.
I got you on that, dude.
And it's all the size. I mean, he could truly come in and start dominating against NFL guys. But if he doesn't, it's because of his size, and he'll probably never overcome that. So I'm real excited to see if he can make it happen. Like, regardless of where he goes. Because if he comes to New Orleans, I'm going to focus on his positives. And there's a ton of positives. Like, basically, if you took Jalen Carter and you knocked 30 pounds off of him and you made him 3 inches shorter, it's Cansey. But that's the problem. You knocked 30 pounds off of him and you made him 3 inches shorter.
Right.
So, we'll just have to wait and see if he can actually go above and beyond his size. And you've seen guys in the NFL do it. Like, I like to bring up two Saints names. Jabari Greer and Sam Mills both did it. Like, they both were way too small for their position, but they outplayed their size and were very good NFL players. The Cansey should be given a chance.
Especially Sam Mills, because, my goodness.
Yeah, so I want him to have a chance. And if the Saints get him, I'm going to focus on what's good. But that's why it's tough for me. It's tough for me.
Right.
But,
and one of the things, Deuce, before the next caller come on, I don't know why. And shouts out to everybody in the chat once again. They already know where I'm going with this.
oh boy,
I don't know why the NFL keep hating on New Orleans. And I mean, it had showed a video of Michael Thomas working back to get back on track to play in the NFL again. And you're going to come out of nowhere with being drug tested? What the hell is going on?
Man, it's...
Bruh, help me with that, Deuce.
That's the thing. I can't, Mr. Jerry, I can't help you.
Preach to us about that, please.
What? Look, if I'm going to preach about that, I'm just going to talk about how the devil's always trying to steal a blessing. Because that's all it comes down to. Like, if you want to bring scripture out of it, it's either the devil's trying to steal our blessing or we are all Job of the NFL and God's letting us go through punishment and torture right now to prove our strength and resolve. That's the only two options I can think of, because it's a little silly, right? And it's pretty consistent with New Orleans. Like, Cam Jordan does something, bam, drug test. Like, the dude's been an all-pro and a Pro Bowler for forever. You think he's randomly going to just start juicing up here at this point? I don't think he's going to just randomly start. Like,
dude, the hate is real, bruh. I'm telling you.
And then Thomas just.
But
now, I will say, man, look, that's a lot of weight,
hate us, but when the Saints go out there and prove them wrong, they'll shut up.
See, that's what I need to happen, because right now I'm coming off my Pelicans not proving a damn thing, and I need my Saints to really do it, because my Pelicans at the end of the year, I was like, all right, fine, we're in the play-in, we're going to do just like last year, and I'm sitting at home going, well, damn. And then what really pissed me off, I'm sorry that we're turning this into a Zion hate episode every time we have a show, but Zion literally just grooving in his car with his friends singing songs. Man, I don't want to see you smiling or nothing in New Orleans until you actually play.
We want to see you out there playing basketball.
Yeah, I don't care if he's playing pickup games. I want him
on the sideline.
Yes,
watching the Pelicans embarrass themselves. These guys went from being first place in the Western Conference back in December. And then, I mean, they were like, it was like riding a roller coaster. You go up, you're doing great. And then when you go down, it just crumble and fall.
Yep.
And now here they are in the offseason trying to find ways to get back to where they need to be for next year.
Well, I'll put it this way, man. This is how I feel about Zion. If Zion's going to stay here, because I know we played him a stupid contract, I'm going to go, because look, we talk about unrealistic expectations. Let me go ahead and make very vocal what my expectations are for Zion Williamson. I don't want to see that man smile. I don't want to see that man eating a beignet. I don't want to see that man even using lotion. I want him ashy on a court, whether it's a pickup game, whether it's in the stadium. I don't care. I want nothing but basketball from him. And if he does 21 days of straight basketball, we give him a king cake. And then he goes right back for another 3 straight weeks of straight basketball. That's all that can really happen for me to be sitting here still rooting for Zion. Past that point, I'm done. And I would also really appreciate if Mayor Cantrell banned this man's stepfather from the city. If we can just make sure that he stays his ass out, I don't care if you got to push him all the way past Metairie, Harahan, whatever. Keep that man out of my damn city. Whatever it takes for Zion to actually play. And if none of those things are agreeable to the Williamson household, then ship his ass somewhere else. I don't care if you took him to the Bulls. I don't care if you put him to the Suns. I honestly don't care if you shove his ass up to Canada.
For all I give a damn.
And I'm done. Like, I'm serious. Like, I want that man being withheld from lotion. Like, I literally want to see ashy forearms and knees because he's just playing basketball and falling down. I'm sick of it. Like, I want that man to actually go through it.
Let me give you a piece of advice.
Please do.
What my grandfather used to say in his lifetime, and he said it best, and it's still to this day, it still go on. His words were, "He hell when he well, but he's sick all the time." You can be in the best healthy shape you can be, but players got injuries, bruh.
But there's having injuries, and then Zion's doing a little bit extra.
Sick all the time.
Yeah. This man has played in 4 years like 120 basketball games. I'm sorry. That's just, and I realize that not all injuries are his fault, but a lot of things are in his control. Like apparently, whether or not he plays at the end of this season was in his control. His weight is 100% in his control.
Right.
That's all on him. That's why I'm sick of it.
Yeah. You ain't the only one, Deuce.
And look, I won't say it to his face, but I'll say it on this podcast. That's all I.
Go on, say it.
Now look, I've said this. If Zion really wants to be an elite NBA player, I think the best thing for Zion, I know a lot of people disagree with this, he can't be a 4 in the NBA. His body has proven it can't be a 4 in the NBA. Like, it can't maintain the size. He needs to go down to about 240, 250 and be the best damn small forward in the league.
At least 230.
That's my opinion. He could go down to 250 and still be a but dude's playing at like 280, right? If he went down to 250 and learned and became an elite 3, which he already does point Zion, he already does the natural guard tendencies as it is, put him in that small forward position and let him cook. But got to keep his weight down. TJ says, ain't no way he's 280. TJ, last offseason, that man was pushing 300. You don't remember them reports? You don't remember them reports? That man said king cake season is all year. That man says he is royalty. He said he royalty. King cake season is all season.
Yes, indeed. I get you. I get exactly what you're saying, Deuce. But once again, man, I'm just looking forward to the next week. I mean, it's upon us. I mean, the NFL draft to me, Deuce, it's just like a kid on Christmas morning. You can't wait to open up your gifts.
Mm-hmm.
You just can't wait. I mean, because I've seen in Saints fans, we've seen this in the past until now. Just now think back. Remember last year, I think we were like number, if I remember, I think it was like 16 or 17 in the first round of the draft. Is that right, Deuce?
Mm-hmm.
And these guys traded up to number 11 to get Chris Olave. Now that right there was the best moment in my life that I've witnessed.
Damn.
When we got Chris Olave.
That man said, I didn't care about my babies being born. I didn't care about first time I had gumbo. Specifically Chris Olave getting drafted. I love it.
Bruh, Matt, dude, you should have heard me on one of the podcasts somebody did. Man, I was hollering my ass off, bruh. I was having a ball. Some of y'all were there. I celebrated like I've never celebrated before. and it was beautiful, Deuce.
I'm happy. So we just need to get Kansas so you can be that happy again this year, huh?
Right.
Well, look, man, I appreciate you jumping on. We are
Appreciate you, Deuce.
15 minutes past our time, so I'm going to have to wrap it up. But I appreciate you jumping in and then letting me have my little Zion tangent because that, I don't need blood pressure medication. I just need to be able to vent about Zion, and then I feel better. So, and then I hope everybody out there is celebrating 420 today appropriately and legally. Please don't get caught. And if you do, make sure you got caught with something that's legal, like Delta 8 or Delta 9. And if you got too high of a tolerance, well, that's your fault for smoking so damn much. So I'm going to blame all of y'all.
All right, dudes. You have yourself a good night, my brother.
You as well, Mr. Jerry. Be blessed.
All right, y'all have a good weekend.
All right, y'all. So we are going to go ahead and wrap up the show. I think it's been a good show. I've had a great time, and I hope y'all have had a great time hanging out. Some good takes, some good opinions, and we'll cover more on Tuesday. But wherever you are, however you are, know that I think that y'all are amazing. I appreciate y'all coming every week. And next week, we will do a live stream on Thursday night. I'll be honest, I'm probably not going to do a Friday and Saturday stream, but we will stream Thursday night talking about the draft. And we'll go from there and see what happens. Tuesday, we'll have a show, and then we might have a special draft recap show on Sunday, but I'm not going to do a Friday and Saturday show because I've already got my other stream. For those that don't know, I do full-time content creation with my YouTube channel and my Twitch channel, so I can't cancel those streams. Not that I don't love y'all, just that I got other stuff. But if y'all haven't checked out my Twitch channel, there it is. I'll put it in the chat. So I'll still have the Thursday night show. We will be live. Now, I will let y'all know in the Discord, we might push the show back an hour. Because if y'all remember, the draft has a habit of going like 4 freaking hours, and the Saints don't pick till 29. So we might push the show back a little bit to try to catch the Saints pick. But we'll play it by ear and see how it happens. Until then, though, I just want to say, who dat? God bless. I appreciate every single one of y'all. If you want to support the channel, hit those donate links in the description or check out revenues.com and pick you up for either yourself, your friend, your girlfriend, your wife, or even your child. Them Who Dat Confessional t-shirts. It supports the channel and also gives you some of the best Who Dat swag going into this season. Y'all are all amazing. Y'all are all wonderful. We'll catch you on the next episode. Deuces, that's me. We out. Intro reroll.